What's up, everybody? Sorry I'm late. I'm going to start out the stream tonight with Bitcoin. It's been a couple weeks since we did the stream, so I just want to touch up on what's been going on recently here. So right now we're kind of at a halt. It looks like we caught a little bit of resistance at 46,374. At least that's about as high as we've closed. It got a little bit higher. I think that was earlier today or last night. But we slowed down a little bit. And this is, it's an important level here because not only are we right now at the 1618 fib of the initial zone we created back here in May, but we are also, I believe, at the 618 retrace of the entire move down. So I got this marked out here in yellow. I'd really like to see, a little bit of consolidation. It does look like we back tested this resistance here from the 8th. We sprung above it. We've come back down. We have back tested it, but we don't really have much help from the oscillators here. You don't have any real edge for a new long until we get some kind of movement here, whether it is to the upside or to the downside. But I got this XABCD drawn out here. If we did catch a retrace off of this impulse up, it wouldn't be crazy to come back down. We never got a real retest of this zone between 40 and 42K. If we did make it all the way back down here, that would be confluent with this little trend line I've got drawn up off the initial impulse, and then we came back down, and I've got this trend drawn back up here, which is confluent with that area. And that also would give us a back test of this area. I would really like to see the asset keep going. The idea behind that is, once we got that impulse up from July 20th, everyone's been screaming, waiting for, a dramatic drawback, a new place to take a long position. You want to see a pullback. You want to, find a nice level to lean on when you're taking a new long position, but we haven't really gotten a lot. It's been just moving up and up and up. The only time we've really drawn down, we've immediately recovered. So maybe we don't get a retrace that far down. I'd love to see it. That'd be a great spot to take a long, because you do want to see, this. We've got a very obvious supply line, horizontal supply line going all the way back to, May 25th. So that would be real nice for swing traders, for longer term traders, to enter a new position or to add to an existing one. But just for the sake of it, I've got the daily chart here. This is one I drew a while back. Kind of had this bullish dragon pattern that we've been watching since, about mid-June, where we broke the supply line coming down. We started retracing a little bit. We bounced, and this would be the tail, right? Above that $42,000 zone was the confirmation that this pattern did exist. And then above that, that's going to be, just the tail of this pattern maturing. I know it's kind of silly, but it is an actual tradable pattern. So, that's kind of at an inflection point, not a real edge to take a new long position yet. If you're looking for a spot to get in, I wouldn't say this is a spot you'd want to do that. You'd like to see a back test of 42. Even like I said, as far down as that $40,000 zone wouldn't be surprising. It wouldn't damage anything technically. I do think the real resistance here that we're going to be looking at, the real major resistance, excuse me, for Bitcoin here is all the way back up here at, this 57, 58 zone. You can see it a little bit better here on the daily, right? That wick high from February 20th. I mean, you've got these lows in here, some spots in between where you might get, you know, a little bit of hesitation, but I think ultimately that's, you know, where we're going to head back to, and that's confluent with about the 786 retrace off the move down. So yeah, I mean, kind of a wait and see right now with Bitcoin. You know, you are a little bit extended on the RSI on the daily. That doesn't mean a whole lot when it comes to crypto. You could be up in this zone for a while before you really start to see some downside. But I believe on the 4-hour chart, we do have some bearish divergence on the MACD and on the RSI. Yeah, so I mean, if in a real bullish trend, you might not see a large pull down from this bearish divergence. You know, a lot of the times bearish indicators will underperform in a bullish market. But again, it's kind of wait and see. ETH is the same way. You know, we've hit so many of these targets on ETH. And right now we're kind of sitting at an important zone here. You know, this is a major resistance level. There was support back here in May. You know, we wicked down to it after an impulse up beginning of May. And on this full move, that's also the 1272. It looks like we hit the 14142. My major target on ETH would have been $3,444, but it wouldn't be, you know, crazy if Bitcoin does pull back a little bit. If ETH followed, maybe, you know, maybe we come back down and give a retest to some of these lower levels here, right around and under 3K. Yeah, we got a bunch of highs over here at about 29. It does look like that has been back tested. And if I'm on the 4-hour chart here on ETH, it does look like you've got some hidden bullish divergence here on the MACD. And you're starting this negative momentum is starting to wane. And we could be seeing some positive momentum here. It looks like the RSI, if we zoom in here on the RSI, we haven't made it back above the moving average on the RSI here that I've got. But that's something to look out for. You know, generally, I'd like to see a break above that, you know, to kind of imply that the momentum's changing and picking up. But again, it's, you know, just like Bitcoin, it's kind of wait and see right now. There's obvious resistance at 3167. You can see it real clear here on the daily. We just have not been able to push up beyond that. But if we do push above that zone, you're definitely going to be looking at some higher levels. I mean, we could come back real fast and test 3915. I think that's a 4-hour level I've been looking at. Yeah, some candle closes over from May 9th. And that's also the 1618 of this entire drawdown, right? From, you know, the sell-off starting early May. So I guess there's not a lot of insight I could give you for a new long position until we do have a little bit more data on here. You know, you could kind of look at this the same way we were looking at Bitcoin. We might be starting a M shape. Excuse me. You know, and the 786 would bring you back down here to retest these highs from you know, about a week or so ago. So that wouldn't be crazy. There's no real indication that we're going to see a drawdown like that, but it, you know, it's just something to keep an eye on. And I wanted to take a look at total, and this is the total crypto market cap. And you can see we've broken above a very important resistance here. You know, we got support at this zone back in April 22nd, and it acted as resistance a few times back here at the end of May and the beginning of June. But we have broken above that, you know, the next major zone. This obviously isn't a tradable chart because it's, you know, just a market cap. But if you know, psychologically speaking, if the total crypto market cap does return to this $2.2 trillion mark, you could definitely see how that would draw the rest, you know, the entire market would have to go up dramatically for this to happen. And I've been watching storage here. Storage is starting to get to a real interesting zone here. I'll pull up the daily chart. You know, you've got this massive XABCD structure we identified a while back, back in June, and you've kind of got this inverse head and shoulders pattern here that has broken out if you consider this the neckline coming down here, this slanted resistance level. But really, before I get real confident in this trade, I do want to see it above 129. You know, that's acted as resistance and support historically multiple times. And I think that's really where you're going to see a move up from this asset. You know, if you look at historical price action correlation, once we back tested that here in March, we went straight up to about 315. I mean, I'm not saying we're going to repeat that, but there's a very likely chance that once we break above 129, we're going to see a dramatic price markup. You know, you could even look at 235 might be a likely target initially. You might see this 176 level, which is a candle high close from March 24th. And if we just do it real quick, it's a little bit scuffed. Yeah, the measured move would bring it probably around $2, and I guess that would be a pretty safe to assume psychological barrier too as well. So GRT is another one. I've got a few levels on here. Same kind of idea. Not as obvious here, but you do kind of got the same thing going on with GRT. You got the massive XABCD structure, and then you've got pretty scuffed up, but you know, you could look at it in the same fashion. You know, psychologically it's the same idea. You know, you've got your low, you've got your confirmation low, and you've got, you know, a reaction. And GRT earlier was trying to test above this candle close level we've got here from December 19th. Which has been regarded as support, resistance, and hopefully that's ending here. Because once you get above 74.9 here on GRT, you know, just looking at historical price action correlation, right? You broke above it back here in February, you came back down, you back tested it as support, and you went from 75 cents to about 234. I mean, you went higher than that, but that's where we closed. Yeah, you went up to about 289 fast. I mean, when you look at different levels on an asset, you want to make sure you pay attention to how they react to those levels. It's the same thing with a breakup or a breakout. If this asset breaks out, you're going to want to look for that, you know, that initial reaction, the follow through price action that comes after the breakout. Because, you know, it was testing it earlier. It did retrace back underneath our level. But on the daily chart here, we are starting to build positive momentum again. Your RSI is at 63, which is the bullish control zone. You are above the RSI moving average. I haven't looked at it on the 4 hour, but you know, and another way you could look at GRT, and I think storage was the same idea as well. You could look at this as a confirmed double bottom. Once you break above this level, you have returned to the top of the range. So above this level, you could see some real dramatic price markups here. You had some hidden bullish divergence here on the 4-hour too. Just overall a great looking asset. It's not one of the top cap crypto assets. Sometimes these come a little bit later when you start seeing the price action turn bullish again. Sometimes these assets, they're unexpectedly, so it's stuff you got to keep an eye on. Crypto moves real fast, and a lot of the times it happens when nobody's paying attention, and that's kind of the idea. When the market makers want to move up this asset, they want to take the least amount of people with them as possible. They're not moving this price up for you guys. They're doing this for them. We're just catching a ride, and that's the idea. This asset might just move sideways for a little bit. It might come back down and test these lower levels, but you can see on this chart, you got higher lows. That implies accumulation. You are back above a historical resistance line, and you have tested once again, back to December 20th, this resistance line. And if you keep on knocking on this thing, you might break through it. And again, probably my first target on GRT would be about 131. You kind of got this low over here at 123, but I think the major one is going to be our B on this XABCD we got here. And then you look at the price action correlation from that zone from B to C. It's straight line markup from once you hit here, straight down, straight up, straight down. That's the history above 131. So it's an area to keep an eye on once we get above that. And the same thing from the point we're at, if we break above 74, the only history we've got above this level is straight up, and then back here straight down. So moves like that are going to happen fast, and it's going to catch a lot of people off guard. That's why you should always keep a nice chart with levels defined and a watch list for all these assets. And just so you guys know, I do not seem to have access to the chat, so if anyone's shouting out any tickers, I do apologize. If you guys want to shoot me a tweet, I could take a look at something for you. Doge is another one that's gotten real interesting the last 4 or 5 days. We identified this bullish shark structure back here where you got your reaction, you got your confirmation low. You could call this a double bottom, whatever you want to call it. We have held that zone once again, and we have recovered to the top of this range that was created down here. So above that, I think your major zones above this level, I would start looking up here to about 36, about 41 cents. I think that's going to be the major, next major zone we go and test. But we do have to break above, well, for 127, and then again up here at 32, you might catch a little bit of resistance as well. But with these harmonic structures, if you're really swinging for the fences, the top of this structure is going to be your targets, your A and your C point. And if you look over here, you've got this 44 wick high, same thing. It's confluent with your C. That very well could be where this asset is going to be headed in time if we do continue this bullish move here. So the daily is in bullish control zone. You're still building positive momentum on the MACD. Your 4-hour chart, if we continue to lose this negative momentum here on Doge, you've got some hidden bullish divergence. You're making more higher levels of negative momentum, and you're making higher levels on the price. They have diverted the direction. And this is a continuation pattern or a continuation indicator that says this bullish this bullish move is going to continue to the upside. But again, 27 is that resistance locally that we really want to break above. Once you break above 27, you're opening the door to some much higher levels, and that does include, you know, once again, 34 or 44, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, if you look, that's another one. You can really look back at this price action correlation above that level. Above that level, it was just straight up, and same thing, straight back down once we breached that wick high back there. This is one I saw a little bit earlier. I'm keeping an eye on WWR, Westwater Resources. You got some real nice harmonic, scuffed harmonics, but all the same. On the 4-hour chart here, got this nice XABCD structure, and you've got your D point, I'm sorry, your X and your D. You can see higher lows, implies accumulation, and this is a momentum shifting structure after a deep retrace. And the idea behind that is this structure presenting itself indicates or implies a bullish reversal of a bearish pattern. You know, your local targets on this one would probably be about 510, 579. I'll probably drop it down here because of these wick highs. So like 550. And on the 4-hour chart, you still got, you're up in the bullish control zone. You're not oversold yet. You're still building positive momentum. And the same goes for the daily. It's real good looking asset here. You are a little bit off of, you know, your entry should have been down here at support at the completion of this XABCD. But if we do break that, no, it looks like we're above it right now, actually. You're trying. Once we break this zone here at 437 and hold it, you know, you might break above it, come back and back test. But I think if you break this zone, you're going to open the door up here to 510. And more than likely, just looking at this historical price action, you know, from this point, you went straight down to where we started moving back up. And if you look back here, historically, you know, straight down, straight up, and then eventually, I really think 673 is probably going to be the target above this zone here on the harmonic. You're probably looking at 673. And if you really get going, there's kind of this scuffed, I call it a bullish shark. And the only reason why I put this on here, because normally you'd want to go to the swing high, but the way I interpret this price action, right, you got your deep retrace, you got your impulse, and then you come back down for your B, and I think C right here, which is confluent with this wick high back here from October 2nd, I think C was where it's supposed to be. Because of this, some volatility brought you, you know, up above that. It overshot that 1618. But if you look at the wave, you know, overall, if you're looking at the wave here, I think this makes a lot of sense. You know, once this asset shot up there, it got rejected hard and immediately. And once it did, it started respecting, you know, the edge of this XABCD structure there. So I think, you know, I do think this is valid. And I do think if we really get going on this asset, if we break some of these other levels, I think 828 and looks like about 920 over here are probably going to be your targets. Again, once you break some of this local stuff, I think that's where it's headed. Not trading advice. I'm just looking at the chart and trying to interpret some of this data here. Coinbase is another one I'm looking at. I'm still, fair disclosure, I am still in a trade from Coinbase from when we were down here in the lower 200s. But I think if you look, if you look where we came from when we entered this zone down here, we came from about 304. And when we went to 304, where did we come from? We came from 257. Well, we're above 257. And the only price action we have between these two zones is straight up, straight down. So, I would like to see Coinbase come up and hit this 304. It has been respected a few times in its history back here in April. So I think, we might come back down. We might give a back test to some of these levels, but even on this 2-hour chart here, you almost got some hidden bullish divergence right where we're at. It could reverse there. Maybe you can say we back tested 263, and that's where we found support. It doesn't look like we've been able to close any lower than that. You got a wick below it, but wicks happen. But yeah, I mean, if you fall back below 257 on Coinbase, I'd start to get concerned, but anything above that is bullish, and I think the target's 304. Especially if we do get another move on Bitcoin. I think that's important for a lot of these assets, especially, your Mara, your Riot. Mara's one we talked about a few weeks ago on stream. I am still holding Mara. We have hit this initial target of 31.95 we talked about. Next target up for me is 38.63. I do have these position tools on here. I keep them a little bit under where I expect to find resistance, especially on, not that Coinbase or Mara is, but on a lower liquidity asset, you want to give yourself a little bit of space. If you're trying to take profit at the same spot everybody else is, you're not going to have as easy of a time when there's not enough liquidity on an asset. Riot's another one that we played. Once we saw that bottom on Bitcoin, first thing I did was ran to all of these Bitcoin sympathy plays, these minor stocks, Riot's one, CAN, SOS, HUT, MicroStrategy, Tesla, Clove. No, Clove is not one of them. But I still like Riot here because what have we done? We broke this 37.80. Okay, I lied. It looks like we're back below it. But if we hold above 37.80, I think your next major zone here on Mara, I mean, realistically, could be 56.89. But I've got this. You had a little bit of resistance back here, February 11th, that had been regarded as resistance and support multiple times. So you might get a little bit of, maybe we wick up here, come back down, back test 42, and continue up to 56. But these assets really, really depend on Bitcoin to continue the ascent, because that's why they're all running. That's why these assets are marking up so dramatically. I think what is this, Riot? I mean, Riot's up 66% from our entry. BTBT is probably the king of all of them right now. Well, not today, not if you bought up here. But BTBT is the golden child, because this one, we identified this one on stream, I think, all right, it was 3 or 4 weeks ago. it looks like about 3 weeks ago. We identified this one on stream, and since then it was up 422%. And this structure was just beautiful. You're not really making any guesses here. You know, you got your XABCD, you know, came all the way down to the 1618 retrace, which happened to be this major support level back here from last summer. And just immediately, I think it was up 108% in a day. But you have since retraced off of this a little bit. You know, we didn't really back test 1245. It, you know, it may or may not come back down and back test this. If Bitcoin does decide it wants to start moving again, we could start to see some higher prices real quick. But if we were looking for a level to lean on here, you know, maybe that 1388, I guess you could consider that back testing it. But I think this wick down might just be foreshadowing of what we might get some, you know, actual price action more than a wick down to that zone. But the 4 hour looks good. You know, you've got this, you hit that 1388, and you've got this piercing line reversal. You got a real nice move off of it. And to make it even better, if you start to reverse to the upside here, you've got higher low on price, which implies accumulation. You've got lower levels of negative momentum, which would give you hidden bullish divergence if this negative momentum starts to wane on the 4 hour chart. Which would also imply it looks like you've already got it on the 2 hour. But that would imply that this zone at 1388 is now support, at least for now. You see, you got the higher levels of negative momentum or lower levels of negative momentum, however you want to say that. But you've got the higher levels on the price, which also gave us a back test of this zone here. So, I mean, it's not ideal. It's an incredible price markup since our entry the 3rd week in July. But if you're looking for a momentum play, if that's the type of trader you are, it looks like you're getting a level to lean on here on BTBT. And I think at this point, so if you were taking a trade on BTBT, really, I would keep an eye on this wick low, which would also be the bottom of your trend. I'd look at that as a place to stop myself out, right? You shouldn't be able to come back down here. If this bullish trend is going to continue upward, as the MACD implies here on BTBT, that also looks like you're getting a hidden bullish divergence on the RSI. So the way to strategize a stop loss on this asset would be under that wick low. You know, that's about 14% down from where you're at. And if you're looking for an upside, I mean, you only got about 21% if we were going to come back up here and retrace or retest that 1894 level. So, you know, maybe not real equitable, but if this asset does come back down and test the trend line or this 1388 zone, you could also split this trade up into a couple buys, right? Add a little bit here, start your position here. If you come back down and retrace close to this support, you know, maybe that would be a place you'd add to your position and dollar cost average, giving you, you know, a better price if the asset does start to move back up. And if it doesn't, you know, you're going to lose on your initial trade. But if you add 2-year position at support, you're really not risking much at that point. But again, these stocks, altcoins right now, are a little bit more of a gamble than they were at our entry prices, only because of the fact that, you know, the zone that we're at with Bitcoin, you know, there's a chance this is a zone that we could see a reversal at. I think, yeah, you've kind of got bearish divergence forming on the daily chart here, right? You got a lower level of positive momentum while you're making a higher price. That would be bearish divergence, because even though you're making a higher price, there's less positive momentum to push that asset up. And of course, if Bitcoin does retrace anything substantial, you're going to see that reflected in the altcoin market, and you're going to see these sympathy stocks, you know, take a dive with Bitcoin. So, you know, definitely do your own diligence on these assets and make sure you got a nice level to lean on if you're taking any trades, you know, off the momentum. Because again, we talked about Bitcoin down here at 29,000. That was our entry right on stream. We talked about this, and since then we are up already about 60%, almost 57%. ARC W is another one I'm keeping an eye on too. ARC W is one of Cathie Wood's funds. This is one that has a fair amount of Tesla and GBTC in it. Kind of got this arguable inverse head and shoulders, right? You got your low, you got your head, you got your other shoulder, slightly higher shoulder, which is to me a bullish indicator when you see these type of inverse head and shoulders patterns. But if you're looking at the price action correlation, once we caught support at 136, the last time we caught support at 136, this asset had moved down from 170. I think the same thing back here from December. You know, you would expect at least to come back up and give 156 a go. But if we do get a partial rise here, if we aren't able to test those areas again, you know, you could definitely see this asset moving down a little bit further. But it does look like it's holding on to this 200 MA fairly well. We are back above it, and the same goes for Bitcoin. What was another one? There's another one I'm keeping my eye on here for you guys. I wish I could do some ticker time with you guys. So I don't have a chat box over here. So what I'm going to do is just go through some of these other assets that I'm keeping my eye on. LAC's one we talked about on stream. This crazy range bound asset. You know, it's been very boring for a few months here, but we have finally broken up above this critical inflection point from October 2nd, 2020. And our first target for me is going to be 1899. We're going to party like it's 1899 when LAC hits our first target, which is the 618 retrace off of the impulse down. Above that, I also like 21, 23, and I think all-time highs for this asset, 28.75. But we've got to start somewhere, and I think initially we're going to be testing this 1899 zone first, between 1899 and 1991. But I've got a couple other lithium plays. They're all kind of moving up real nice. PLL is another one. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name of that company and just butcher it, but I like this one a lot because of this, right? this high back here from October 7th, 2020. We came back after June. We topped out here. June 30th, we topped out at around $78, and we fell all the way down to 48, which happened to be this high from October. And you caught a massive reaction. You're still building positive momentum on the daily. The RSI is just heading straight upward. You're almost into the bullish control zone, and I think initially we're probably looking at a test of about 66. If we break above that, I would place my bet at 78. Yeah, I think 78, this wick high from the beginning of March, respected again and again. I really think that's going to be the top of the zone. And it could be a place where traders are going to take profit, or it could be, at the beginning of price discovery for lithium. I do like lithium right now. I do like solar. A lot of those have to do with, internet. Those are things I invest in long term. I think solar is only going to go up over time. Lithium's important. Yeah, I've got a bunch of lithium plays. I think LIT is another one. This is an ETF. Might not be as exciting as some of the others, but all the same, just for the sake of looking at charts, man, LIT has been moving up since the beginning of middle of May, middle of May. And you're making all-time highs, I believe, on this asset. Yes, you are making all-time highs by far. And if we were going to run Fibonacci on this, just based on Fibonacci, I think your next major level up is probably going to be 95, 98 at the 2618 of the entire asset's history. If we were going to move our Fibonacci a little bit more localized, yeah, that 95, 98 is probably where you're headed, because that's also the 100% measured move of this drawdown back here from January. Yeah, I like the confluence between those two zones. That's where I'd keep my eye out for. We might come back down and retest the resistance as support before moving up, but I think ultimately that's probably where you're headed. Looks like on the weekly chart you are starting to lose negative momentum. Yeah, the oscillators aren't really helping you here on this one. So, maybe that gives you an argument that we do come back down and back test 82 before attempting some higher prices. I really like the volume profile on this one. You got a lot of volume coming in. And I think PLL, LAC. I like the semiconductors too. Not a great day for TSM, but these are assets I hold long term. I had another one we've been watching. I did bring it up to you guys a couple weeks ago. Is PTE, Polarity TE, consumer durable. We had this Real nice structure forming after a deep retrace. This is on the daily chart, right? We put in this low last fall, made this nice XABCD structure, this bullish shark. We came back down to an 88.6% retrace. And you look, if you look at the price action after coming down to that that retrace, you got a nice spring above this old resistance all the way back from March of last year. You had a double bottom and you had an extreme price markup. So now we broke below it, but we sprung back up, we back tested it, and you know, just looking at the price action correlation between that 78 cents and about $1.24, you got straight up, straight down, straight up, straight down. So that would be my first target. You know, it has been respected a few times in this history over the last year or so. And I think if you break above that, you're probably going up here to 173. I think that's the eventual target, which is the 618 retrace of this impulse down from 235. That's a 618. And it's also this area back here from February 14th that we caught resistance at once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. I think we'll probably go test that again at 173, and that's where my money's at. You are building positive momentum once again on the daily. The RSI is looking good. You're above the moving average. It looks like you've got, yeah, you got nice convergence between these lows, this higher low, which does imply accumulation on this asset. 4-hour chart here. Looks like you're slowing down a little bit on the 4-hour chart. You are losing positive momentum, but you have not created any bearish divergence. You got the high, you got a lower high, and the same thing on the MACD. But the RSI on the 4-hour is still looking good as well. You are just about to enter the bullish control zone. If you are able to do that, I would imagine that's going to be the antagonist to break you above this 85-cent resistance where we're at right now. And if you do that, you're going right up here. Looks like about $1. I guess that's probably a psychological area as well. But you can see there's definite correlation to this level. I do think that's going to be important, but I don't think that is going to be where we stop. There's a couple other ones. I had another one here I wanted to share with you guys, and I cannot remember what it was. Was it Mana? Yes. Mana's another one I like right here. I had a chart for this. I like Mana a lot right here because of this level right here. You got this wick down here that's been respected a couple times. You've got resistance, 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 and Mana right now is trying to break above that zone as we speak. It's been trying for the last few hours. I think if we do break above that zone, you're going to be seeing some of these some much higher prices very fast. I had a chart made up for you guys and I can't find it. But if we were looking for a target on mana above this zone, it really depends on where you anchor that. You could almost say you're above it already, but all the same, regardless, I think our next targets for mana would probably be up here at about 119. We're at 82 cents now. That is about a 43% gain. And I say 119 because if you look back here, you can see this price action correlation between where we're at, down, up, just back and forth, a nice range here, and there's not a lot of overhead resistance until you get up to that zone. You could kind of take a look at this 95-cent zone. You know, you might catch a little bit of resistance there, but I do think ultimately your target above 81 cents is going to be 119. You can see that's a major zone. You got resistance, 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 support, support, and then break, hook, and go all the way down here to our low from May 19th. Again, you got to keep in mind, though, if Bitcoin does not make a move above this zone we're trading in now, you could definitely expect the rest of the market to follow it. But we are still making higher highs, higher lows here on the 4-hour chart on Bitcoin. And until we stop doing that, still very bullish on this asset. Again, my reason for not thinking we're going to get too dramatic of a pullback is because this is kind of the game, right? You shake everybody out down here. Everyone's convinced Bitcoin's selling off. We're going to go to much lower levels. And then you don't give them a chance to get in. When they see that price going up, you know, what's everybody say? Oh, I'm going to wait for a pullback. I'm going to wait for another chance. You had an amazing chance, very, very low risk. And now the composite operator does not want to let you in this trade. You know, you kind of got this opportunity back here when we back tested, you know, 37.9. But if this asset keeps going up, you know, and it doesn't lose its steam, you're going to catch people that are just like, oh, all right, I'm FOMOing in, I'm going to buy. And then that's when you're going to see the pullback. When everybody finally gives in, who's been waiting, you know, for a nice pullback to get in, they're finally going to give in to the trickery. They're going to buy in. And then that's when composite operator is going to say, you know what, let's go back down here and test these lower levels. And that's a psychology of trading, you know. But we'll see. Right now, we're still, even on the 4-hour chart here, we are still above this. You see these orange dots here. This is a momentum moving average. This price is bullish until we drop underneath those. And it looks like we could right here, but we could also get another spike up and really fake out the bears. Because right now the bears might be looking for an opportunity to take a short position. And again, if we do see a drawback here on Bitcoin, I would keep my eye on about 41,000 or this 42,400 zone. You know, I wouldn't, it would be real pretty if we could get a pullback to 40,582. Again, that's confluent with this M shape here. And if you change your, you know, you could kind of look at it like this. I think it works a little bit better the other way, just because of the confluence with this, the top of the range, confluent with the trend, and you know, it would be a real nice 88.6% retrace off of this X back here. So something to keep an eye on. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, I'm putting all these charts up daily, usually daily. And that's at Trade Nomadic. And if you guys do want to toss me out some tickers, I'll do a few of them before I call it a night. I wish I could have been there with you guys in the chat, but I'd be happy to take a look at some before we get out of here. And my chat just came up. Go figure. My chat literally just came up when I got no time left with you guys. Like I said, if you want to toss me some tickers on Twitter, I'd be happy to take a look at a few charts before we call it a night. But I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for coming out, and I'll be back here again next Tuesday, 7 p.m. And on Twitter, again, same thing. I'm always putting charts up, and I'm happy to share with you guys. Not trading advice, but just interpretation of the charts. Rania, I'm just signing off. If you want to shoot me a message on Twitter, I could take a look at that one for you. And for Bobcat, go ahead and shoot me a message. I'll take a look at those quick. I appreciate it, guys. I'll see you next week.